We can only get one hotel room now. Okay. Many years ago I used to work for a company that did a lot of traveling. We're talking 12 to 20 hours a day in a truck with another guy. Often for 5 to 10 days at a time. When we stopped at hotels, which was not every night, sometimes you slept in the truck. We would get separate hotel rooms so you would have a little bit of personal space. There was a per diem rate, and as long as we kept the hotel rooms under that rate, it never was an issue. Well, after about 15 years of this, the company suddenly decided that separate rooms was costing too much money. We had to share rooms now, regardless of the cost. The job market was fairly good at this point in time, and a few guys basically quit on the spot, and the rest complained a lot. Now this actually created two forms of malicious compliance. The first one is, instead of looking for a moderately priced hotel, often the drivers would max out the accepted rate. For example, often we would drive out of major cities and stay in the suburbs where hotels and motels are cheaper. Not anymore. You'd find the really nice hotel downtown, and you'd have to pay for parking down there too for the truck, so you expense that also. Then some guys took the policy a step further, and would walk into hotel, and say, "I'll give you the max rate for this room." They would chat up the hotel desk, explain the situation, and deliberately overpay for the room, spending every cent they could underneath the max rate, just to cost the company a bit more money. The second bit of malicious compliance took a bit more conniving behind the scenes. Shortly after this change was made, it just so happened that the head manager of the company needed to head out on one of these trips, which was a relative rarity. Through some backdoor dealings, a few of us managed to get the most obnoxious, smelliest driver on the scheduled with him. This guy was a bit of a trip. Nice guy, but didn't like to shower very often. Talked to your ear off and refused to turn on the radio. Was really pretty slovenly, and liked to watch porn really loud on the TV in the hotel room. Wasn't the brightest bulb either, but was relatively competent at his job and easygoing otherwise. After sharing a hotel room with him for one night, the manager decided he needed his own hotel room. We made sure everyone in the company knew the manager would not even hack it for more than one day, sharing a room, and this caused some pretty strong strife. A few more good guys quit. Shortly thereafter, they reinstated the policy of individual hotel rooms. But now the damage had been done. Some of the guys really liked staying downtown, so the parking fees for the trucks went up, and the overall cost of the hotel rooms went up too. Did anyone ever get a suite with separate sleeping areas in a communal living space? Sounds a bit like what happened to me. I was sent to Denver for some technical training. They gave me a daily per diem for expenses. I'd skip breakfast and lunch, then have a mighty fine steak and lobster dinner, all within budget. 2 weeks after returning, I get called into the comptroller's office. Seems that the company never intended for me to eat like a king on their dime. Hee. I knew that Mr. Controller had just returned from a national corporation week-long retreat. So I said, "Alan, you make a good point. Let's pull out your expense report from the retreat. I promise that I'll never exceed what you spend on one of these trips." He hemmed and hawed around, saying that I just didn't understand the situation. I told him I was real sure that I did, and perhaps we should take this discussion into the president's office for clarification. Never heard a peep out of him from then on. A bit like what happened to one of our guys. He was getting a hire car from the airport and staying in cheaper out-of-town hotels. Expenses decided a hire car wasn't allowed, so he then used taxis from the airport and stayed at the expensive hotel near the office. It took them a few weeks of €1,000 plus expenses to finally admit they were wrong, and he got the car back. But now the damage had been done. Some of the guys really liked staying downtown. So the parking fees for the trucks went up. And the overall cost of the hotel rooms went up too. And there's the hidden cost that employers never seem to include in their budget calculations. Once you abuse your employees' good faith, they'll just stop extending it to you. If the people who work for you are saving you money by following the guidelines you set and without doing anything shady or illegal, leave it alone. Penny wise, pound foolish. When I worked for the Department of Defense as a civilian contractor, per diem was just a flat amount that was paid out. Some of our people that went on travel a lot would eat fast food every meal and come home sometimes with hundreds of extra dollars. I'm surprised that places that pay per diem also require receipts. Kind of misses the point. Ages ago our 12-week out-of-town training had shared hotel rooms. It sucked. That ended when one guy was taking a shower and his new roommate decided to hop in the shower as well. I had a supervisor who was a frustrating combination of cheap and stupid. I, and 2 other employees traveled across the country for a work matter. On the day we returned, I put the cost of the airport shuttle that took all of us from the hotel to the airport on my credit card. Next day, as we are all completing our expense sheets, she asks me for a copy of the receipt for the shuttle, so she can claim her portion. I tried multiple times to explain to her that since she didn't pay anything towards the shuttle, she wasn't eligible for any reimbursement for the expense. She really thought that she could claim 25% of what I paid. Never paid for a meal. Normally driving, I worked for a food delivery company that kept me out 4 to 5 days a week. Our clients included Denny's, Bennigan's, and Steak and Ale. I'd eat breakfast at Denny's, lunch at Bennigan's, and dinner at Steak and Ale. Also had steaks and other items fall off the back of the truck. Ate pretty good at home as well. Open mouth smile. Very rarely did I ever have to pay a dime. But I always left a handsome tip. Always stayed at the same hotels all the time in rooms reserved. Made a lot of points on our hotel customer points cards thanks to this, and while on vacation never paid for a room. Great company to work for at the time. Only a handful of times in 5 years did I ever have to sleep in the bunk. I would have booked a deluxe suite with multiple bedrooms, technically still one room. Tears of joy. Never been a trucker. But I recall when the media company I used to work for got acquired and changed the travel policy so that alcohol was no longer allowed on expense reports. Most people just started taking fictitious people to dinner and asking the restaurants not to itemize the bill or substitute dishes for drinks. 2 IT guys took it a bit further. They would ask to put the entire stay on their corporate cards in advance, then ask to have the charge for one of their rooms applied to the hotel bar as a credit. They'd share the remaining room, go to the office and say, "Just give us a key so we can come work at night and not impact your staff," then pull an all-nighter Monday night and perform whatever task they'd been sent to the city to perform as quickly as possible. Then they'd go do a 4-day bender on the company dime. Mark the tasks complete sometime on Friday. Go back and drop off the keys and head home. Friend worked for a company where female employees had to share a room but male employees got their own room. Someone sued and the company had to go back through all their records and find each instance women had to share a room and reimburse them for the cost of the room. Both women, even women who no longer worked for the company, got a room reimbursement check. Tens of thousands of dollars, and hundreds of hours later they decided everyone had to share a room. Women with women, men with men. What could go wrong? First convention, and one of the guys decided to get prostitutes for himself and his roommate. The other guy had no clue. They were arrested. Charges dropped, but the roommate sued, and now everyone gets their own room. You see, Malicious Compliance was able to chew on upper management's butt. Not once but twice. I love it when people choose their own kind of eventual karma. Similar to my old company. Sales and managers are unlimited air travel and hotel expenses. But us lowly engineers got very stinging rates. Must use cheapest air travel and hotel expense, no more $100 a night. So one time I need to go to a client at Queens, New York. Any sane person would fly into LaGuardia or JFK. But no. My request was denied and stating AA flies into Westchester Airport for $80. After arguing to no avail, I say fine. Listed a couple more expensive options along with a red-eye flight to Westchester and the hotel at White Plains for $60 a night. Now they think they won and approved my cheapest option. But they didn't realize I don't have a driver's license. So every day I book a taxi ride from the hotel to client, which is close to 1 hour and 30 minutes ride, racking up over $400 a day on fare alone. There is no direct taxi from White Plains to Queens. Only commission. When they got the bill, they tried to argue with it, and I stated my reasonable accommodation was denied and they only approved the cheapest option. And I don't have a driver license, so they cannot expect me to drive. They dragged this on for over a month and I billed them the interest on the credit card too. They never learn, do they? It's actually amazing, considering the gazillion amount of stories on what will happen if a company decide to save money on the backs of their employees. Each and every one of them spells disaster. And some even hurt the company afterwards due to losing valuable people. I gave up an all-expenses-paid week-long work trip from Indy to San Diego because I was going to have to share a room with a coworker. Former job that I had with the same overall employer. I stayed in hotels about 100 nights a year and never shared a room. I enjoy my space. I don't want to hang out with coworkers when I'm off work, even a block off the beach in San Diego. You are required to share a hotel room. Question to HR. Does sharing a hotel room apply to individuals of different genders? And what about individuals that may have differing sexual orientation? Need an answer before considering options about possible lewd and lascivious behavior issues. I was hoping you guys started getting the 2-bedroom suites. This is way better though. Just shows despite what the company will say, they don't care if you as an employee tries to save the company money, so use whatever per diem they allot you since you only hurt yourself when you try. I worked for a company decided that we weren't allowed to rent cars on work trips because of cost. So we would have to take taxis everywhere. We would get receipts from the taxi drivers that were blank and up the cost of the taxi by 50 to 100% depending on how much we liked the city. Our team coordinated the percentage by city, i.e., New York plus 50%, Des Moines plus 100%, Los Angeles plus 75%. One person hated LA, so they insisted we used a higher rate when we traveled there. After 3 months they reviewed the cost of renting cars versus taxis and went back to allowing us to rent cars. Edit. Formatting.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.